Hello and welcome to our taro, variety, and pollinators field day. Um, yeah, tomato. How can I forget tomato? How can I forget tomato? My name is Glenn Tevis. I'm the County Extension Agent on the island of Molokai, asked to help with this trial. We have Rosemary here and Kylie. Some of you folks know already. This is their trial. I'm just coming to help. I shared these seeds with them from some friends of mine who breed tomatoes on the mainland. Frogs Leap Farm and Aaron A.P. Whaley Seed Company. Very interesting breeding program, cutting edge. These two tomatoes last week Friday won the All-America Awards for the top tomatoes of 2022. Two of them right here. These varieties, the whole strategy behind the breeding program is to bridge this gap between heirloom tomatoes that taste really good but don't have any disease resistance and don't have a yield. Cross them with modern hybrids that have really good quality, fruit quality, plant health, and productivity, but no taste. So cross these together and develop these varieties that have really good taste, disease resistance, fruit quality, and can grow in field production. They're bred for field production. So Aaron Whaley and Mark McCaslin are involved in cutting edge research to develop new varieties. 2 years ago, they came up, that's the first release of their varieties. They won 2 All-America Awards 2 years ago. And this is the second bunch of tomatoes they came out with. They won 2 more All-America Awards. So quite an accomplishment for first couple years of releases. So these varieties are just getting ready to, better turn off my phone before everybody starts calling. A little bit about their breeding program. They cross heirlooms with modern varieties. They select for taste and they select for disease resistance. And the way they do disease resistance is they've gotten into it's called marker-assisted breeding. So they can mark the certain genes in the tomato, and they'll know what resistance it has in the seedling stage. They take a piece of the leaf and they can tell you, okay, this variety is resistant to nematodes, to yellow leaf curl virus, spotted wilt. So they've had varieties now. I think they're up to, I want to say 8 resistance to 8 to 10 different diseases. Most of the main diseases in the United States. On Maui, the 2 worst diseases are viruses, spotted wilt virus and tomato yellow leaf curl. These are the 2 worst diseases. Leaf curl came in from the Middle East, from Israel, slowly made its way, I think in the 80s, slowly made its way to the mainland, and they got to Hawaii around, I say, early 2000, maybe late 90s. And it's just raising havoc on a lot of our tomatoes right now. With this resistance, it helps a little, but the plants are not 100% resistant. What we're noticing on this trial, and it was really interesting, is that the thrips, this thrip called Frankliniella occidentalis, the western flower thrip, lives in flowers. And they'll infect the flower, and the fruits will come out infected. And sometimes the plant is not infected, but just the fruits are. And these are coming in really late, and this is kind of a phenomenon that they're just starting to figure out right now. In fact, I just got a paper on it. I'm fortunate to be able to work with breeders in the different parts of the United States. Randy Gardner in North Carolina State and Jim Myers in Oregon State. They have different breeding priorities. Spotted wilt just broke out in Oregon in the last couple months, so the timing is really, really good. Jim Myers is known for the indigo tomatoes, the blue tomatoes that kind of everybody goes crazy for right now. So these are bred for taste, they're bred for productivity and disease resistance. This is only the second generation coming out. They have breeding nurseries in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Last summer they were in Oregon and California. So being able to test it in different parts of the United States gives you a really good perspective of what kind of resistance it has and what kind of problems they run into. And you still have problems. I mean, if you looked at the list of diseases on tomatoes, It is so long. Luckily, tomato has a lot of wild species that we can derive disease resistance from. So we can get some of the wild species and select the lines and cross them to create disease resistant varieties. But it takes a long time. It takes a long time to develop a new variety. Any questions? So some of the varieties being shown here, I'll just point out some of them. This is Sunset Torch, won the regional All-America Awards for the Western states, the Midwest, and the Southeast. Purple Zebra won the all-around champion of all the tomatoes released this past year. Can you taste the tomatoes when you go out in the field?
Yeah.
Oh, from here?
From here. Those
Oh,
are clean.
okay, these are clean.
Yeah. I washed out so you can taste from here. Oh, that's it.
The other ones might have some added microbes in there. But some of these, I mean, this one, some of the orange ones have a really unique taste. These other varieties are varieties from other breeding programs that Rosemary wanted to include in the trial to kind of see how they do. A lot of them had viruses early in the season, although they're identified as resistant varieties. And I think the main problem is on Maui, with a year-round production climate, we have some really viral diseases. And so the key in a lot of this is to make sure the insects are controlled early in the early stages. When the plants are young, they're more susceptible to viruses and diseases. And as they get older, they get stronger. And they're able to handle a little bit more, whether it's resistant varieties or non-resistant varieties, or susceptible varieties. So some data was taken. It's kind of interesting because I sent some of the results back to the breeder. He says, "Is this my tomatoes? You mean they had this much virus?" I said, "Back to the drawing board, buddy." It's interesting because the virus level is really low compared to, say, 20 years ago on Maui. In the late 80s and early 90s, Maui was a major producer of tomatoes and lettuce. The problem is that both of those crops are susceptible to spotted wilt. So farmers were rotating lettuce and tomatoes, and the perfect storm. They got wiped out. And so Maui is not the center of tomato and lettuce production like it was in the 90s. The other problem is that the weeds will maintain the viruses on the edge of the field. So weed control is critical when growing tomatoes because the thrips will live in there. As soon as you put your plants in the ground, bingo, they're right in there and they're spreading the diseases at early stages. I think that's about it. Any questions? Yes?
Are there certain parts of the island that are more susceptible to certain diseases?
You know, that's a hard one because if you have a lot of production in one area, then you're going to have more of the disease. But then you have climates that are just so ideal for the insect, such as Kaului. You know, you have this hot weather all year round. I mean, the thrips just love that kind of weather. In fact, I was talking to Rosemary about maybe having a trial at UHMC area. And I said, this is going to be a problem area. If you're in an isolated area and you're the only one farming, there's a chance you might not have it. But once you start planting on a regular basis, it's really hard to understand this virus. I mean, we get new stuff on Molokai that floats over from Maui. Okay, the insects float over to Maui and, oh, where did this insect come from? Oh, Maui had it for 6 months already. So you have this situation where things are floating around out there. We have the coffee rusts. Okay, rusts are probably the worst ones because the spores will just float in the air and they can float just between the islands. So yeah, that's a hard one to call. If you had a small planting and you're the only one in the area, there's a good chance you can avoid it. And if you do get it, the key is to impose crop-free periods. So don't plant tomato all year round, especially in a garden setting. So you plant it, you'd stop maybe a couple months, clean the area out, you can start again. You probably can get away with not having it. So crop-free periods are critical in terms of controlling pests as well as diseases. Any other questions? Okay, who's taking?
So I think we can all agree that the stars of the show today are the varieties that Glenn contributed to the trial. I mean, just visually, they're beautiful and got uniform fruit, and the disease resistance is pretty high, and it's, you know, pretty promising for commercial production for our farmers. But we wanted to include these front, the tomatoes in the front row here, because they're commercially available. They're something that you can order. You could have ordered yesterday, and you know, they're easily accessible. And so if you take a look at I guess the easiest graph to look at is the fourth one on the back side of the first page. This Rosemary put together with all of the information per variety. So the commercial varieties start with Cypress and end at BHN 589F1. And so if we just take a look at the data that we collected for the commercial varieties, among those, what looks most promising is Cypress, Red Snapper, and Skyway. And that's based on the disease tolerance or resistance. But if you take a look, so this is Red Snapper here. We do see some symptoms. So, you know, after we're done doing our talk here, it's really important that you folks go take a look out in the field and get a feel for, you know, what types of tomatoes you want to grow, what you think your markets will accept, because there's a lot of different characteristics to keep in mind in addition to yield, in addition to disease resistance. So that was just my little spiel, and I think Rosemary will take it from here.
Hello, everybody. I don't know most of you, but I am Rosemary, and thank you for coming today. So, well, I will talk a little bit about the tomatoes. So, the varieties, the commercial varieties that are in the front, they're supposed to be resistant to the yellow leaf curl virus and to the wilt one, but they are not. So you will see, I can walk around and see some varieties, they are in production, they produce, they are still infested, but they can produce. Yeah? Well, some of them, they get infested too early, so the fruit is damaged, like this one. Yeah? But some of them, they are not infested, so they will take longer to get infested. So those varieties are like the better ones. They're not good ones, but at least we can commercialize those varieties. Okay. So when we are done here, take a look and look that. Even if the plant has the symptom, but the fruits don't have. So that's one good thing of some varieties. Another thing about pests. So I want to tell you that it's not only the viruses. Yeah, the viruses come to the plant because they are vectored by insects, thrips, and whiteflies. So if we can control these pests early, we can delay the infestation until the tomato doesn't get infested. So we can commercialize that. Yeah? The key of this is control the pests, the whiteflies and the thrips. So as soon as we plant them on the field, we have to check weekly, and if we see some whiteflies or thrips, we have to apply something to kill them. Yeah? Or apply some IPM method, yeah? Intercropping, mulching, whatever we can do to get low infestation of these pests. Okay. That's all about tomatoes. Now I want to talk about another project that we have here in the Ag Park. That is about the establishment on farm pollinators friendly habitats using native Hawaiian plants. So why is important to have these friendly habitats? So all insects need pollen and nectar to feed. They don't only feed on fruits or on other small insects. They need pollen and nectar. And especially the predators, the good insects, the beneficial insects, they need pollen and nectar to survive and to reproduce in more quantities. So if we have a landscape area where it's only grass, so there's no pollen for them to survive. Yeah? So we need to plant some food for them, some extra food, so we can host them, yeah? Make a little house for them so they can survive and reproduce, and they can help us to take care of some pests in the future, because they won't control the total, yeah, but they will help us with some percent. Okay, so that was the idea of this project. Growing native Hawaiian plants, especially those ones that flowers a lot most of the year, to attract pollinators, to attract beneficial insects, yeah, to help us control some pests. So we did 2 plots over there. If you want to see them, they are in the corner over there and one in the entrance. So we have, if this one in the corner has more, like 50% more plants than the other one. And if you see the table here, you will see the first comparing only this habitat with a control, with nothing like the grass or any invasive plants. You will see that in the pollinator habitats, there is a lot of bees, different kind of bees. The green table, we have bees, we have lady beetles, wasps, ants, and fruit flies, but not as much as in the control side. If you see the graphs too, the green bars are for the pollinators, very small quantities of fruit flies or ants, and high quantities in the control area. So this small data that we have is making sure that those areas are really necessary to attract insect pollinators or beneficial insects for our farms. Okay, and we have a lot of native plants to you to take home. Please take home. We have here and also over there. They flower a lot, especially the Hawaiian cotton and the ilima. They are really good for bees, for pollinators. They flower all year long. Some of the varieties they have seasonal flowering, but still it's a good place for insects to live, to hide. Any questions? Okay. Well, we have varieties that are indeterminate and also the determinate varieties. So the indeterminate varieties, you can, I think you can grow it about a year and 2 months. Glenn? Yeah, right? Yeah, 1 year and 2 months. Yeah, the indeterminate ones. Yeah, which are those, the cherry ones. Yeah. And I think it's worth it, well, personally, because they are more expensive. yeah, in the market, and especially the nice spotty ones, they are more expensive. So I think it's worth it to grow these cherry tomatoes than these ones. These ones are determinants. You can also find the indeterminants, but we have now the determinants. So you can only have like 3 harvest time, yeah, and oh, like every week, 3 good ones, yeah, from the first harvest, second and third. Then it will be very little, and it doesn't worth it to water them. So, yeah. Any other question?
Are tomatoes also wind pollinated?
Wind pollinated and insects, but mostly wind. Yeah, not all of the varieties or all of the vegetables are self-pollinated. So there is some varieties, especially zucchini, they need bees, they need pollinators. So, so we need to take care of our insect pollinators. In the tomatoes? On the tomatoes? Oh, we didn't measure the drought tolerance, only disease. Yeah.
Speaking of the disease, is there any good organic pesticides that you might recommend?
Organic pesticides. It depends for which one. I think spinosad is the like general for white flies and thrips, mites.
What's the name one more time?
Spinosad. Yeah. Yeah.
What about BT?
BT is mostly for caterpillars. Yeah, it's not for small insects. Yeah. Maybe they will take care of some, but not completely. Yeah, it's mostly for caterpillars. Yeah, and also Nemex. You can use Nemex when the population is very low. Yeah, if you see very low population at the beginning, you can use Nemex or neem oil. But when the population is high, you have to use something very strong. Yeah. Oh, neem oil or Nemex. Yeah. Nemex is made from neem oil. Yeah.
You mentioned the thrips go to the weeds
Mm-hmm.
and then come back to the tomatoes next season. What about native plants? Do they end up on any of the plants?
Well, we didn't study yet that, but as there are not too many native plants at home, so now you have our plot we are going to study, but mostly the thrips and whiteflies are in grass kind plants, grassy areas. And if you have these native plants that are flowering, they will have also beneficial insects that can help to control the pests, the insect pests. Other questions? Comments? No. Oh, those are to control the birds. Yeah, they work really well because at the beginning we didn't put any, and they were eating all the tomatoes. And once we put them, very low damage of birds. Yeah. So if there is no more questions, you can come if you want to try this tomatoes, they are washed, they are clean, but it's optional.